So hello everyone, on this video I will be discussing how to incorporate SQLite 3 database to the Java NetBeans IDE. So actually it's just easy, we just have to download the different libraries and different softwares that we are going to use. But the first thing that we are going to do is to download the JDBC for our SQLite. So let's say the jar file. Okay, so actually, there are already jar files on the internet that we could download. Okay, so it, actually, for this one, we can download the SQLite JDBC jar file. But since I already downloaded this one, you can download it through this link, and I'll be attaching it to the description. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is to download or to install the library to our project. To do that, let's click projects and then to libraries. Okay, so right click this one and add jar folder. Okay, so we just have to incorporate this one and click this one. So since I've already downloaded the SQLite JDBC and on my downloads folder, so I will be incorporating this one. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is to identify or establish the connection of the database. But we can establish a database without a database itself. So the first thing that we are going to do is to create a database. And to do that, we could use different softwares, for example, DB SQLite. Okay, so you can download the DB browser, but for me, by preference, I'd rather download the SQLite Studio. Okay, so we can download this one for you to use this, and it could edit the different databases. So this is the one of the things that I'm using. Okay, so to create a database, we just need to open the SQLite. Okay, SQLite Studio. So I already downloaded this one, so you don't have to install it. You just need to open this one. Okay, so SQLite Studio, open. Excuse me. Okay, so waiting for it to open. Actually, there's already an open database. Let me just close this one. Okay, so we can start afresh. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to create a database at the same folder where the Java SQLite is found. So to do that, we could easily create this one by clicking database and then add database. Okay, so let's just add this. Okay, so let's just look for the file. Okay, so NetBeans project. Let's name it as, let me just look for for the folder. So SQLite project. Okay, so not this one. Java SQLite. Okay, so let's just name this as information. Okay, so by that we could already create our database, but let's first check the connection if it's working. Okay, it's working. So to be able, let's create. So you can see here on this project that there's already an information DB. But before anything else, let's just put a value on our database. And let's just add a table named, let's say, person. Okay, person. So within a person, there is a person ID, and the data type for this one is an integer. Okay, oops. It's an integer, so this is a primary key. So the primary key is usually used to access the different datas within the table. So this is the primary key. For example, you have a key on your door. In order for you to go inside to get the items within the house, you need the key. So that's basically how primary key works. So not null, since we don't want any values or our unique key number for the person to be null. Okay, so let me just add this one. Excuse me. So within a person, there is also a that's just another in a person there is a name. Okay, so name, and let's say it's a character, size 64. Okay, so let's say not null. And what is it there with the person? There's also a let's say uh, sex. Okay, let's add sex. So let's say character, and then maybe the maximum is 10. So let's say not null. Okay, for example, we have this data already. So let me just check this one so that it will be creating a table. So actually, there's already a table. And let's just add a value for the table. Let's say this one, 1. Okay, let's say Elmer, and then sex is male. Okay, so let's just another one. Let's say 2 and Maria. So Maria is a female. Okay, so that's basically how you create a table, which is we already have a data, we already have a person. But before we extract information from this database, we must first know how to extract this information. And you can browse it on your modules. But to give you guys an example, let's just query the different information within the person class. So how can we do that? So first is select asterisk, and then from, which is we are getting from the person table, and when we run this, we are able to get the numbers, or to get the results. But for example, we only want to get the person ID with number 2. We just need to get that, and we just need to obtain the name and sex without the person ID. We can do that by simply doing this one. So name, comma, and then sex from person. Okay, so where clause is used if we want a unique ID from it. So person ID is equal to 2. Okay, so when we run this one, we can only get name and sex from the value. So that's basically how we query data, because we need to query as well when we establish the connection between a Java and the SQLite. Okay, so since we already discussed the database, let's discuss how we will be going to establish the Java SQLite connection. Excuse me. So to do that, we could simply say import Java SQL connection. Okay, first we need to check the connection between this one. So let's just create a class for this. Okay, so public static void connect. Okay, so this basically outputs if our connection is successful. So connection on is equal to null. Okay, so let's do a try catch block. So it's important to have a try catch block for us to know when the connection has an error, it will not automatically close the application. Thus, it will continue to output even there's an error. So that's basically how we use try catch block. So let's say SQL exception E. Okay, so there is no SQL exception. Let's just include it on our program. So import Java SQL exception. Okay, now we already have the different data. Okay. Okay, there's still an error. Maybe let's wait for this to be corrected. Let's just continue. What's the error? Okay, So try this is the DB parameters. So we need to add the location of our DB. So to do that, just simply JDBC SQLite. Okay, so let's just browse this one. So our database is found here. Wait. Source packages. Okay. Where did we add the database? Okay, so we could see it here. Okay, so in SQLite, we could simply type temp db since it's already on our folder. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to call the driver manager. Driver manager and get connection. Okay, so we haven't included it here, so import Java SQL driver manager. Okay, so this should work. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is system.out.println. So let's check if the connection is working. SQLite has been established. Okay, so println is not working. Okay, let's just catch the error in case it doesn't work. Message. Okay. Oops. Get message. Okay, I keep forgetting the T there. So finally, let's just add again a try block. So if connection is not equal to null, let's close the connection. Is it important to add or close the connection? Yes, it's important because when you don't close the database and your program keeps on reading from it, there is a potential error that you would encounter in the long run. So it's a good practice to close the file once you're done using it. Okay, so SQL exception X system out ln. Okay. Okay, so let's just call this function. So this what what's the name of the function? Okay, let's just see if this could run if the connection established. Okay. Okay, so connection to SQLite has been established. So that's basically how we connect the database to the SQLite. But this time, we need to get the values from the database. So how can we do that? So I'll be showing it to you this time. So the first thing that we are going to do is to create a from the source file. Okay, let's just create another class. Let's name this as person to hold the values within the database. Okay. So private, let's say what's the information that you are getting from it. Person ID. Oops. In person ID. The next one is private. What's the other one? Name. String name. Okay. So that's basically the information. Oh, we forgot the sex. So private, let's say string sex. Okay, so that's the information that we need. So first is we also have to create the setters and getters for this one. So let's just do it. So public string, and so it's a good practice to use the okay. So it's a good practice to use the capital letter when we are having a getters and setters. But first, let's create a constructor first. So for public person. So how are you going to know if this is a constructor if you are using the same function name to the class name. So this is what we call constructors. Okay. So the next one is the getters. So to do that, let's just return the this. Okay. Next one is public string name this and then name. Last one in oops. Let's say person ID. Oops. Person ID. Return this person ID. Okay, so the last one is we'll be creating our setter so that we can set the values within uh, the functions or the variables for this one. So public void, and then let's say string, oops, string s. Okay, equal to s. Oops, I forgot the semicolon. Let's just copy this one. Okay, so next is the name, string and name. Okay, last one, the ID, integer ID. Okay, so person ID. Okay, so we need also to create a constructor to automatically set the values as well. So person int ID string s and string name. Okay, so this could also be used as setter. So we don't need to use to access that one, but this is just a best practice. So uh, person ID is equal to ID. Uh, x is equal to s, and then name is equal to n. So since we already have this class, let's go back to our main project. Let's just import it as well. Actually, it's already imported. So let me just comment this out. Okay. So let's just try to output what's on the database. And to do that, we could simply uh, use this code. So let's say public. So we are using using a list. So the difference between an array and a list, list doesn't need to indicate the memory scope of the array. So an array, we need to declare how many items, the maximum items that you want to set. But in a list, you don't need to indicate it. So it is much easier and it is much better for some point. Okay. So first is person. So select all. So you need to select every bit of the data. Okay. So the next one is, let's say person. So we are creating an object of the class. So list. Okay. So list isn't included. So let's just add this one. So import uh, util. So it's on the Java utilities. Okay. So person Okay. So string SQL is equal to select, since we want to select all of the information for the testing purposes. So select all from person. Okay, so that's our query basically. Okay, so next we're going to do is to add a try catch block. So try, then say connection, oops, connection. So this already establishing a connection. So we don't need to redeclare what we declared above. So statement stmt is equal to con create statement. Okay. Actually, we haven't declared it here as well. So let's say import Java SQL statement. Okay. And also the result. Import Java SQL result. Okay. So these are the things that you need to import before to get the result. Okay, so this is not yet done. So last one, result set rs is equal to statement execute query. This is where the query goes. Okay, so there's still an error for this one, but we could wait until we fully added all the details. First is we're going to loop to get the result. So rs that loop through the result set. Okay, so while rs that next. So this will go iterate the data one by one. Okay, so let's return this to remove the red lines. Let's say okay, so there seems to be an okay. So I forgot to declare a list for person. Okay, person list, so new array list. Okay, so we already declared what we need. So let's go through it one by one. Okay, so what's the error? Unexpected. Okay, let's just correct it later. Okay, so let's say person is equal to new person. Or maybe let's just output the values first. So system that out that print ln and then rs get string. So what you're going to input here is the name or the column name. So since we added the name, and then let's just add a tab. Okay, plus get rs get string. First, let's get the gender without the person ID. So, or the sex rather. Okay. So let's first output this one. And let's just add a try catch block. Okay. So catch. In case that there is an exception. Exception E. Okay. So system dot out print ln e dot get message. Okay. And then maybe let's not use the list first, since we just want to output the different data within it. So what's happening here? rs gets string. What's the error? Unclose literal. Okay. System out println. Okay. There seems to be a mistake here. Okay, and then let's not return a value first. Okay, so let's just output the result before we establish connection. And before that, we forgot to create a function to establish the connection. So to do that, we could just simply add another function. Let's say public connection connect. Okay, so let's return con. So there's still no con. Okay, so string rel is equal to JDBC SQLite temp and .db. Okay, so connection con is equal to null. Okay, so let's just add another try catch block. Con is equal to driver manager connection. So this is the easiest way to maintain or to have the connection between the valuable or the value to access on the database. So this is the basically the easiest way to do that. So catch SQL exception. Okay. So system dot out dot print ln e dot get message. Okay. So since we already have all the data that we need, let's just show if we could output the values. So select all. Okay, so let's just run this one. Oops, there seems to be an error. Select all. Hmm, what seems to be the problem? Non-static method. Oh, so it requires a static parameter. Okay, public void. Let's just see. Okay. Okay, let's just instantiate the class so that we will not be needing anything. So let's say Java SQLite. SQLite. Okay, so app select Java SQLite. So app that select all. Okay, so let's just run this one. We should see all the data. Okay, SQL error or missing database, such as table person. Okay, person. Okay, so there is an incorrect name, so it's supposed to be information. Sorry about that. Let's just run this. Okay, so you can see here that we could already see the different values such as Elmer, male, Maria, and female. Okay, so the next video we will be discussing how to incorporate this data into a J table.